Assalamu alaikum, this is Maria Zulfikar welcoming you all to the English news from Btv-Chattogram. Let's begin with the headlines. Chief Advisor Professor Muhammad Yunus calls upon armed forces to fulfill historic duty to make upcoming polls and referendum fair, peaceful and festive. UK doctors join treatment of BNP chairperson Begum Khaleda Zia. Thirteenth National Parliament election to be most important in country's history, says EC Abul Fazl Muhammad Sanaullah. Next hearing in case of torture in task force for interrogation cell after forced disappearance on December 14th. Legal action to be taken against traders for increasing soybean oil price without government's announcement, says a Commerce advisor. More than 1,300 die and many missing in severe floods in 4 countries, including Indonesia and Thailand. And Barcelona top points table beating Atletico Madrid by 3-1 goals in Spanish La Liga. Viewers, those were the headlines. Now moving on to the details. Chief Advisor Professor Muhammad Yunus has called on the Bangladesh Armed Forces for playing a historical role in the upcoming national polls and referendum in February next. He made the remarks while addressing the graduation ceremony of the National Defence Corps (NDC) and Armed Forces War Corps (AFWC) 2025 at Mirpur Cantonment in the city today. He handed over certificates to those who completed the course. The Chief Advisor congratulated the participating course members and expressed hope that the knowledge and experience gained through their year-long dedication and perseverance would play an effective role in national development, policy formulation, and strategic decision-making. Professor Yunus also appreciated the armed forces for their continuous efforts during national crises such as natural disasters, political unrest, and pandemics that demonstrated their readiness to respond and unwavering dedication to the well-being of the people. At the event, the Chief Advisor requested the nation to pray for the recovery of the former Prime Minister Begum Khaleda Zia.
On this happy occasion of graduation, let us pray to Allah, along with all the people of Bangladesh, for the speedy recovery of our former Prime Minister and our national leader, Begum Khaleda Zia, who is struggling with her life. I'm proud to notice the progress of the armed forces and their enduring contributions to our national security, development, and nation-building activities. Your commitment to safeguarding our nation has been exemplary. Your continuous efforts during national crises, such as natural disasters, political unrest, and pandemics, demonstrate your readiness to respond and your unwavering dedication to the well-being of our citizens. Moreover, your contributions to global peace through participation in the United Nations peacekeeping missions have enhanced Bangladesh's global image. Still, you'll have to play a very historical role very soon in our national election and referendum in coming February to make it not only a historical landmark, also a peaceful and festive, make it a festive occasion for all voters who turn out to vote. And the nation will remember with pride they really had a historical occasion to turn the country around.
Commandant of the National Defence College, Lieutenant General Muhammad Shahinul Haq delivered the welcome speech at the event. Later, Chief Advisor Professor Muhammad Yunus signed the visitor's book. He participated in a photo session with the National Defence Course and Armed Forces War Course 2025 graduates. This year, 96 officers completed the National Defence Course and 56 officers completed the Armed Forces War Course. The chief advisor exchanged greetings with the invited guests and course graduates and cut the cake on the occasion of the graduation ceremony. A specialist medical team from the United Kingdom has joined the treatment of BNP chairperson and three-time former Prime Minister Begum Khaleda Zia. Another medical team from China is expected to arrive in Dhaka this evening. Khaleda Zia, who is suffering from multiple health complications, is currently undergoing treatment in the intensive care unit at Evercare Hospital in the capital. BNP's media wing member Shairul Kabir Khan has said that the foreign specialists will work in coordination with the medical board to provide guidance on Khaleda Zia's treatment. Meanwhile, BNP chairperson's personal physician, Professor Dr. A.Z. M. Zahid Hussain, said that Begum Khaleda Zia is currently able to undergo treatment. He added that a medical board comprising both local and foreign experts is regularly monitoring her condition and providing necessary medical care. The Special Security Force SSF will conduct test landing and take-off operations of Bangladesh Army and Bangladesh Air Force helicopters in two open fields adjacent to Evercare Hospital in the city tomorrow as part of SSF's security protocol. The test flights will take place between 12 noon and 4 p.m. Chief Advisor's press wing said in a press release this afternoon, urging all to refrain from spreading any kind of misinformation, rumors, or undue speculation in this regard. Election Commissioner Brigadier General retired Abul Fasal MD Sanaullah has said that the upcoming 13th Jatiya সংসদ election will mark the beginning of defining the democratic trajectory of future Bangladesh. Bangladesh is moving toward an election in a changed context. This election is going to play a very significant role in the history of independent Bangladesh. The Election Commissioner made the remarks while speaking as the chief guest at the inaugural session of a day-long training program for journalists titled Training for Journalists on the 13th National Parliamentary Election, held this morning in Dhaka today. He added Bangladesh's electoral system has suffered severely in the past years. They are now working to repair that damaged electoral system and rebuild it into a more inclusive process, calling on journalists and media professionals to play a responsible role in disseminating election-related information. He said, Election Commission believe that journalists are an integral and essential part of their work. The transparency and accountability we speak of in conducting a clean election, journalists are one of the major driving forces ensuring that transparency. EC hope all of will benefit from this training. Election Commission Secretariat Senior Secretary Akhtar Ahmed was present as a special guest at the event. Speaking on the occasion, he said, "This training is extremely timely and important because we are required to conduct both the upcoming national election and the national referendum simultaneously." International Crimes Tribunal 1 has fixed December 14 for the next hearing on the formation of formal charges in a crimes against humanity case, which alleges that opposition political activists and various individuals were subjected to enforced disappearances and torture inside the task force for interrogation cell during the 1.5 decades of the fascist rule of the Sheikh Hasina government. After the first day of hearings, the three-members tribunal headed by Justice Ghulam Murtaza Muzumdar fixed the new date in the case against 17 accused, including ousted Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, Asaduzaman Khan Kamal, Tariq Ahmed Siddique, and 11 army officers. Accused army officials were produced before the tribunal today. Chief Prosecutor Muhammad Tazul Islam argued for the state during the hearing on the charge framing. Meanwhile, testimony has been recorded against 17 people, including former lawmaker Saiful Islam, in the case filed over crimes against humanity committed during the July uprising, including the killing of 7 people and the burning bodies of 6 bodies in Ashulia. The 3-member judicial panel headed by Justice Nuzrul Islam Chaudhry began hearing the testimony this morning. Today, the tribunal has recorded the second day of testimony from the 24th witness in the case. Earlier in the morning, 8 arrested accused were produced before the tribunal. The hearing of the leave to appeal filed against the High Court's order declaring the oath and formation of the interim government valid has concluded. The Appellate Division of the Supreme Court has fixed tomorrow to give an order in this regard. Today, a full and regular bench of the Appellate Division headed by Chief Justice Dr. Syed Rifat Ahmed passed the order. The hearing was held by the Attorney General, Additional Attorney General, and a lawyer. At that time, the state's chief legal officer said the writ was filed challenging the validity of the interim government based on a misconception. At the hearing of the case, the lawyers said there is no scope to question the validity of the government formed after the mass uprising. It is contradictory to question the validity of the government in that court which the government reformed after taking the oath. Commerce advisor Sheikh Bashiruddin has said that legal action will be taken against importers and marketing companies if our increased soybean oil prices at the consumer level without any government announcement. He made the warning today while speaking to reporters after an interministerial meeting at the Secretariat. Commerce Secretary Mahbubur Rahman was present at that time. Referring to the businessman's decision to raise edible oil prices, citing high rates in the global market, the advisor said they did so without the government's permission, which is the violation of the law. Sheikh Bashiruddin added that the ministry is examining the sudden price hike of soybean oil and will take necessary legal measures against the price manipulators. Since the July mass uprising, remittance inflows to the country have been on the rise, and the upward trend continues. According to the latest data from Bangladesh Bank, remittance inflows grew by 16.8% in the first 5 months of the current fiscal year. The country received $13,149 million in remittances during this period, compared to $11,261 million in the same period of the previous fiscal year. Besides, expatriate Bangladeshis sent nearly $110 million in remittances on the first day of December alone. A Bangladesh Air Force relief aircraft carrying emergency relief supplies for the people of Sri Lanka, devastated by cyclone and flood, left Dhaka for Sri Lanka from AK Khandakor base in Kurmitola in the capital today. The relief supplies were sent on the instructions of Chief Advisor Professor Muhammad Yunus and under the overall supervision of the Armed Forces Division. Later, at a press conference, Acting Director General of the Operations Operations and Planning Directorate of the Armed Forces Division, Colonel Muhammad Tariqul Islam said the 10 tons of relief supplies sent by the armed forces to Sri Lanka included dry food, medicines, tents, and various necessary items. Assistant Chief of the Air Staff, Air Vice Marshal Javed Tanveer Khan, and senior officers of the armed forces were present on the occasion. Now, international news. Large parts of Southeast Asia are still reeling from devastating flooding and landslides caused by a series of cyclone and storm systems that lashed the region last week. More than 1,300 people have been killed across Indonesia, Sri Lanka, and Thailand, and rescuers are still searching for hundreds of missing residents. In Indonesia, where an incredibly rare equatorial cyclone hit the island of Sumatra last week, authorities on Tuesday night revised down the death toll from 753 to 712, with 500 missing. In Sri Lanka, the death toll on Tuesday night stood at 465, while Thai authorities reported 176 dead. About 218,000 people were living in temporary shelters. Millions of people across the region have been affected by the floods, which have caused widespread destruction and destroyed thousands of homes. Indonesia's disaster management agency said about 1.2 million people had been displaced across the North Sumatra, West Sumatra, and Aceh provinces. Russian President Vladimir Putin and US negotiators appear to have failed to achieve a breakthrough on securing a Ukraine peace deal. Russian officials says the talks were constructive, but no compromise was reached over territorial concessions for Ukraine. US President Donald Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff and son-in-law Jared Kushner met Putin in the Russian capital on Tuesday, as the United States seeks to broker an end to the deadliest war in Europe since the Second World War. The discussions lasted almost 5 hours and ended after midnight. Earlier, Putin had said Europe's peace deal demands were not acceptable, adding, "Russia is not going to fight with Europe, but if Europe wants to fight, Russia is ready right now." Elsewhere, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky said that some things still need to be worked out in the draft peace plan, but that now more than ever, there is a chance to end this war. Israeli forces have killed 357 Palestinians in the first 50 days of the ceasefire, according to Gaza's health ministry and the government media office. The Palestinian Information Center announced that Israeli forces detonated a booby-trapped robot near the Al Sanafur area in the Tufa neighborhood east of Gaza City. An Israeli drone attack in Khan Yunus on Tuesday killed Palestinian photojournalist Mahmoud Wadi and wounded journalist Muhammad Abdel Fattah Asli. Gaza's healthcare workers say they are still facing critical shortages of medication and equipment despite the 7-week ceasefire. 2 Palestinian teenagers killed in the occupied West Bank on Tuesday after the Israeli army claimed they carried out car ramming and stabbing attacks. Israel's genocidal war on Gaza has killed at least 70,100 Palestinians and wounded nearly 171,000 since October 2023. Meanwhile, the UN General Assembly has adopted a draft resolution calling for the withdrawal of Israel from the Palestinian territory occupied since 1967, including East Jerusalem. It also called upon states not to recognize any changes to the pre-1967 borders, including with regard to Jerusalem, and not to provide any assistance to illegal settlement activities, directly or indirectly. The draft resolution, which was penned by Djibouti, Jordan, Mauritania, Qatar, Senegal, and Palestine, was approved with 151 votes in favor, 11 against, and 11 abstentions. Back to national news. A Dua Mahfil has been held at Bangladesh Television-Chattogram Center to pray for the recovery of BNP chairperson and former Prime Minister Begum Khaleda Zia after Asr prayer today. Btv-Chattogram Center General Manager Muhammad Imam Hussain, News Editor Muhammad Zahidul Islam, music artists Abdul Mannan Rana and Farid Bongobashi, Islamic speaker Maulana Munirul Islam Rofiq, Member Secretary of the Metropolitan Jasas Mamunur Rashid Shipon, Ulama Dal leader Joinal Abidin and journalist Farooq Munir addressed the Dua Mahfil organized by the BTV Chattogram family at the mosque in Chattogram Center. Officers, employees and artists of BTV Chattogram Center participated in the Dua Mahfil. Special prayers were offered in the Mahfil seeking the recovery and long life of Begum Khaleda Zia.